Hi, I'm Doug Ross, and I've got a little groove exercise for you today. I call it the Random Groove Exercise, and it's designed to maybe break you out of your habits and help you kind of freshen up your groove, so to speak. Groove is one of those subjects that gets talked about a lot among bass players. A lot of young players ask, what is a groove, or how do you come up with original grooves? And it's a hard thing to define exactly. But I think it's one of those things that you know it when you hear it, right? You know when you hear a song that's really grooving really well. But basically, my short answer to that question is groove equals repetition. That's basically what it comes down to, rhythmic repetition, okay? So whatever pattern you're playing over, whether it's an 8th note groove or a 16th note groove, it doesn't matter. The idea is to commit to a particular rhythm that fits that grid and stick with it and make it fit the different changing chords. A lot of times, inexperienced players will kind of try one idea and then abandon it very quickly and try something else, and abandon that very quickly and try something else, and it never settles into a groove. But the idea of this exercise is that it could be any rhythm. It really doesn't matter what the rhythm is as long as you commit to it and play it consistently. So we're just going to randomly pick some notes and try repeating them and see if it turns into music. And for this example, I'll just use a basic rock pattern, an 8th note groove, that's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? You can hear the drummer's hi-hat counting off the 8th notes in the grid. So that's all the notes that you have available to you in that groove, basically. And a very common pattern to play over a beat like this would be just to play every 8th note. And maybe on a simple rock tune, you might just play just the roots of the chords. And it might sound like this. Something like that. And that would be perfectly appropriate in a lot of situations. But maybe let's say that pattern of playing all the 8th notes on the root is getting a little stale for you. I mean, it's been done a lot, and maybe that's just become an old stale habit for you and you want to break out of that and play something different. Well, you could really play anything as long as it fits within that 8th note framework. So you could just randomly, write a bunch 8/8 notes on a page and erase half of them. Let's say I'll play the first beat, and I'm just going to use sort of a D minor chord, a D minor pentatonic scale for my example, but you could apply this to any chord or any scale. So let's say I'll play the first 8th note, and then I'll leave out 2 and 3, and I'll play the 4th one, and I'll leave out 5 and 6, and I'll play 7 and 8. Okay, so instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And let's see how that sounds with the same beat. How did that sound? Did it sound like a groove to you? Probably not, because I only played it once. It sounds pretty random if I play something like that just once. But if I play it 3 or 4 times, you start to settle into it as a listener, and as a player you start getting used to it, and the players around you will start getting used to it, the groove that you've established, as long as you stick with it. And everybody will kind of adjust their parts to fit that, and it'll start feeling like music, hopefully. So let me try repeating that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so you see it starts to work after a little while. I did put in a couple different notes and a couple slight variations in the line, but basically I was sticking to that same rhythm all the way through. It's okay to put little embellishments or little variations in every 4 bars or every 8 bars, just like a drummer would play a fill at the end of each section. That's fine, as long as you come back to your established rhythm and you stay committed to that. So you've got to be very conscious of the rhythm that you're playing. That's the idea. So I'm going to try one more variation on this 8th note pattern, just as an example. I'm going to really strip it down and play just 3 notes out of the bar. And I'm going to leave out 1, just to make it interesting. So let's play the 2nd note and the 3rd note and the last note. Okay, so I'll play 2, 3, and 8. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. that should be interesting. Let's see if I can play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I got a little bit silly there, but you get the idea. Even something as random and arbitrary as that can work, actually, if you play it consistently. And of course, if I was playing with a real drummer and played a groove as odd as that, he'd probably adjust what he was playing to match what I was doing even better. But even with this straight eighth note groove, I think it works as long as you commit to it and play it consistently. And by the way, you can use the same idea with any kind of grid. It doesn't have to be a rock beat. You could do the same thing with 16th notes on a funk groove, or with triplets on a 12/8 groove. It'll work. You might come up with some very interesting music that way, actually, that you would never have thought of otherwise. So give it a try. I do recommend if you try this with something like 16th notes, things can get very complicated, so you might want to actually write out the rhythm on paper to kind of really grasp it clearly before you try playing it. But by all means, give this a try. Go to town with it. Try coming up with some random grooves, and let me know if you come up with anything cool.